Hello and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser.
I'm Woolly Mike.
And I'm Stuart from Great Escape Games.
But together we are
Modeling
with
advantage.
advantage. Oh,
look at that. Right, hobbying tonight. I'm very ambitious. I'm going to put some clump on this field here.
Is it dry?
It is dry, yeah. Well, it was here at the weekend. We did a little bit of hobbying. Got 2 baby ones for gardens and a big one over there. What about you, Mike? What you got on the hobby bench?
Get away from her, you bitch. I'm going to do the loader. I've sprayed it on the through, and I'm going to try and get the yellow on in quite a few layers. So,
for those that don't know, that's the Aliens quote, "Get away from her, you bitch," and an expansion for the Gale Force 9 game.
Courtesy of Mrs. Kaiser.
And Stuart, people can't see you. We should explain you had some problems with your camera, and you just decided to bin it tonight.
Yes,
are you doing any hobbying?
I am. I could have probably share my screen here, and I've just put all of this together. It's actually a new thing, and I'm just cleaning it up today, making sure all this is nice, clean, and all the mold lines are gone. That's what I'm working on.
Boom! Look at that beauty. Funny enough, we're going to be talking about that later, I think.
Yeah, I'm just doing. I've only painted one of our own wagons so far, so I'm going to do another one with loads of baggage. We got some new baggage stuff coming out. Even a little case of bottles as well. That's going to be whiskey.
Whiskey, bourbon whiskey or rye whiskey, sir?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to have to decide that now. Now we're into specifics.
Will you be providing printable labels as downloads on for the whiskey bottles? I realise a decal sheet is a lot to ask, although it would be nice. All right, so just catch up with the early adopters. Allard, looking forward to hearing more about update plans for Dead Man's Hand. You're in the right place then, Allard. It's the first Kickstarter I have ever backed.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
Lazy Parrot Painting also backed the Kickstarter, even though it's been run by Gashead. It's good to have friends, right?
I think I know who that is.
Nick from Team 2 Clueless Games. Good evening, sir. Rich John. Hi, all. While I listen to the show, I'm going to have a look at the Combined Arms box that I won at CrackCon the other week. Ah, yes, mate. Well done. One sec. Pressed the wrong button, so you zoomed in on me while I coughed rather than because I'm an idiot. For those of you who met at CrackCon, it was lovely to see you all. For those of you that don't know, at CrackCon there was a big raffle to raise money for Callum, who's Brush and Quill, a fellow YouTuber. You often see him on the show because he's running the London Marathon next year to raise money for Whiz Kids, which is for wheelchair using children, charity that he works for, and obviously he's a wheelchair user himself. He's a keen advocate of the thing. We won a painted Age of Sigmar army in that raffle, so I'm going to be putting that on eBay and auctioning it. I'll put a link on the Facebook page when it's done, and the profits from that sale will also go in. And they raised about 650 quid in that raffle. That's a lot of money going to a good place. So well done for everyone that did. Hi, Kaiser. Glad to actually catch you live for once. Back to Redux on its first day. And Rich M is also, but it seems like you already got loads of backers. I assume it's going well.
Nice.
Lazy Parrot Painting, if you want to identify yourself to Stuart, just so he knows who's calling him out as a gas head during the show. Right, gas head. Right, Stuart, in case anyone doesn't know, this is the most unprofessional.
Do we need to explain what a gas head is, though?
Well, this is where you are going to talk about yourself for a little while. So why don't you tell them what a gas head is and then say who you are and what you do?
Well, I moved here from Canada when I was 18, and I ended up in Bristol. And I did actually meet friends at the Games Workshop store in Bristol. And one of them said, "Hey, you should come along to the football one day." And I said, "Okay, let's go." And he took me out to Bath, to Twerton Park, where I watched Bristol Rovers play Newcastle, Kevin Keegan's Newcastle United.
Oh, golden
Off the
days,
park.
mate.
Played them off the park, despite, I think it was a 2-1 home defeat. It was an amazing game of football. I'd always been a football fan, so I became a gashead from that point on.
And do you occasionally still chant Shearer from the stalls?
No,
Oh,
no, definitely not, because I'm on the other side. Was Shearer playing?
well, you just
Shearer
said,
wasn't in the team at that time, I don't think.
was he not? They still would chant it. They love Shearer there. They're going to bring him back, you know.
I don't think he was in the team at the time. That was when Newcastle United were in what is now the Championship.
Right. I'll take your word for it.
May have been slightly before his time. I do remember actually seeing Shearer play there. I'm sure I saw Shearer play there when he was in the old second division with Blackburn Rovers, because I saw Bristol Rovers play Blackburn Rovers at the same ground.
Yes, before he went to Newcastle. Yeah.
Dalglish was manager.
Yes, you're probably right. Anyway, I'm sure half the people here really don't care about football. So, Stuart, who are you and what do you do?
I'm one of the founding members and director of Great Escape Games. 20 years ago now, I did work for Games Workshop. I was a senior trade manager there, and I was offered to either move to Nottingham, away from my young family, or to take redundancy. So I opted for the latter. I had one interview for a proper real job. Then I decided, nope, not doing this, and set up my own war games company with my fellow ex-Games Workshopper Mark Wheatley. And the rest is 19 years of history. And that brings us to where we are now. So I've managed to do that for 19 years now. Full time, and it's been quite an interesting little adventure. I've learned quite a lot. I thought I knew a lot 19 years ago when I started it, because I had a 9-year background with the biggest war games company in the world. I found out that I didn't know so much about it. That was a long and interesting journey, and I'm starting to learn about it now. I'm just starting to get to grips with it, I think.
Just starting to get to grips with it after 19 years.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right. So the reason we'd asked you to come on today in particular is because there's Dead Man's Hand is one of your premium products. I mean, I don't know. Is it your best selling product?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your best selling product. I think it's certainly, if you sort of, walk around a war game show and then pick a guy at random and say, "What do you know about Great Escape Games?" They would say Dead Man's Hand. Although you do actually have quite a lot of other games and products.
Yes.
And Dead Man's Hand, last year, you had an incredibly successful 2-player introductory set, which had the rules, some cards, Chessex D20, and some plastic miniatures in it.
Yeah.
That we sold out of that. We got 10 copies and they went. That sold out almost immediately. Then we found Javis, which we use sometimes as their distributor. They added another 20 copies and they sold. And for us, with a little web store, that was shocking how well that game did.
Yeah.
We never seen sales like it. So you took that money and you did something great with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't go on holiday with it. That's for sure. We've taken all of that. That was actually, funnily enough, that starter set. This is a bit of a secret, actually. I think it was a test for what we're doing now. It was all just the reason we did it for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 was because it was a good idea for a box product. Yeah. But number 2, it was a little bit of practice for doing a bigger project. And it was learning a little bit more about what kind of big boxes we could do. We made some mistakes during doing those those other box sets, which we learned from. We learned some of the capabilities that we had, and some of the areas we had to strengthen a bit and find out more. And it was all good. So we used it really as a guinea pig for this box set that we're releasing now. Well, next year. Yeah.
Nice. Because the games that you've done before this, if I'm right, I was the reason I turned around is I was looking to find one, and they're all in the other room. I believe certainly the ones that I bought from you before Dead Man's Hand, they're kind of in like a big Ziploc bag. There's a soft cover rule book and some cards in it. So trying a box game with miniatures and stuff built into it was a new
thing. There's actually, I mean, there are some truths in this wargaming industry, and one of them is that fantasy is 90+% of the industry. That's number one. That's just true. It's it's not my opinion. It's just counting. And the other one is that 90% of the wargaming, your potential customer base likes plastic. It's just a fact.
I can't tell you how much that's true. Whenever I see companies releasing new things in resin or metal or the Cast adventure that all the big companies are on, I was like, do you ever speak to your customers? Nobody wants this. I don't know anyone that wants resin if they could get a plastic one.
Yeah.
I understand the lead cost is really different, right? Because the plastic frames cost a lot of money in development. But it just
but here's an interesting mind exercise for you, and that's to imagine and maybe write down on a piece of paper how many war games companies there are out there that produce plastic miniatures. It's an exercise I do with historical wargaming companies. How many companies that are heavily historical produce plastic kits? And the number's very small.
They are.
It's very, very small.
It is.
And I think that describes
it's also why those companies are very big and successful, I think.
Yeah, I think well, yeah, maybe.
So if I give you an example, Flames of War is not the best World War II game I've ever played in 15 mil.
No, absolutely.
They are some of the best wargaming model kits, they're plastic tanks I've ever handled, insofar as they're not repurposed model kits, which require skill and time.
Yeah.
They're 15-piece plastic kits. They're as easy to put together as a Space Marine, and that's saying something, because a wargamer wants 20, 50, 100.
Yeah.
I think it's not
we don't have time.
About, no. And when I say plastic, I don't mind metal.
Yeah.
It's not my medium of choice anymore, but I don't mind metal. But I think that's probably because I was raised on it.
Yes.
I was raised as a historical wargamer on metal figures. So I'm not unhappy with metal, but I despise resin. It's so difficult to work with. Anyway, so you made some plastic miniatures for Dead Man's Hand, right?
Oh, absolutely. And see that on the other side of the coin, on the producer side of the coin, my God, do I prefer plastic? As a medium to work as a medium to work in business, it makes a huge difference. It means that what we can do, because do you know what? I really love Dead Man's Hand. I'm actually, I love the games that we do, and some of them are better than the others. Maybe some of them have been more popular than others. Maybe I still love each and every one of them. Some of them maybe I'd even redo, but Dead Man's Hand is exactly what we wanted. It's kind of like that. You have that moment, and the moment we had it was when me and Mark were watching Open Range, the gunfight at the end of Open Range, which I think is the best in Western movie history, personally. And after watching that, I turned to Mark and I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I want to play," because he was talking about doing a Western game, and getting me to buy into it. And that brought me into it, watching Open Range. I've always loved Westerns, but doing a Western game, that really sparked it for me. And then we went away. Then we both went away, and I developed an initial rule set, and then we play tested it amongst us, and then and it's just we ended up coming up with something that was just really, it was just kind of reflected that cinematic experience that you have when you're watching those gunfight films.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was fast. We wanted it to be fast. We wanted it to be furious. We wanted things to happen. We wanted you to be making constant decisions. We wanted you to not know what the hell was going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. So for people that don't know Dead Man's Hand,
yeah,
that's kind of just some of the things that you've just referenced. They're not necessarily going to immediately grasp how that worked. So
yeah,
and this is about your cards, right? This is how so how does a player turn our activation of their model? Can you just talk us through that briefly, just for those that don't know?
Yeah, I'm really an advocate for within war games to have turns that are very fluid, that are ill-defined. I don't like having player one's turn, player two turn. I like that to alternate, to ebb and flow throughout a given game turn. And one of the vehicles we used for it in Dead Man's Hand was to use cards to drive how a game turn developed. So what you do is at the start of the turn, basically, each of your characters, and generally in Dead Man's Hand, you won't have more than maybe 7 characters in a game, sometimes a lot less. But each of your characters in a given turn is given a playing card, which has a value, just like a deck of playing cards. And that determines the initiative of all the characters on the table. So aces will go first, write down the numbers. And then within that, we have a mechanism where you can interrupt the game turn and mess that around. But essentially, what you start with at the start of a turn of Dead Man's Hand, when you've revealed all the initiative, is you can see what's going to happen, how it's going to sort of unfold. But then we use the cards in a second way. The very same cards you also use in your hand, which you retain. And these are like special play cards, and they can affect and enhance your own characters. They can mess up the opposing characters. They can throw in different effects. Look at that. That's quick. And it's and it creates a chaos, and it creates what initially seems a very because Dead Man's Hand is simple to play, but at first sight it seems a simple game, but actually there's quite a lot of nuance in it, because although you'll have these, you might have most of your characters, because of the initiative cards, most of your characters might be going before your opponent's characters are going. What you've got to consider is what's going to happen when you've done all your stuff and then your opponent gets to do all their stuff. So you've got to think ahead quite a lot, and you've got to think of different possibilities and make different decisions all the time. And I really love that in wargaming. And that's sort of that combination of using these cards for initiative and then using them to circumvent the rules in a way by having these special play cards. And the special play cards will have different effects. One, for example, I like Spotted Horse cannot be killed by a bullet. That's a good card because it means your character can't suffer any death results from shooting.
And to go alongside that, if I could say again, because this is just for people who have no idea how Dead Man's Hand plays, the games, they're all mission driven, right? So that character surviving a turn could be game changingly important.
Yeah, absolutely, because especially if you use, because we've put in the new rules, we've put an easy pickup campaign system where your characters do die or do suffer permanent injury.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to add that into it. I like that you mentioned the sort of scenario play, because that's another thing that I'm really proud that we came up with that, because again, it was movie based. We were so our ethos was driven by cinema. And one of the ideas was that you play an act. When you play Dead Man's Hand, you play an act, and an act consists of 3 scenes. You've got an opening scene, the little scene, you know, when the protagonist first walks into town, that kind of scene. Yeah. Then you've got a second scene where there's a bit of a to-do, a gunfight. And then you've got a final scene, which is the gunfight at the end, the big gunfight at the end of the movie. And that's basically how a Dead Man's Hand gaming session works.
And that's not a campaign. That's how Dead Man's Hand is intended to be played in 3 parts in one sitting, really. Yeah, and those 3 games probably only take 2.5 hours.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Generally, it's like 2 hours of gaming with natural built-in tea breaks.
Yeah.
And the outcome of the first game dictates factors in the second and in the third. So how well you do.
Yeah, you get a little bonus for the next game if you win, and so on.
But it's not snowball though. It's not like there's no shortage of Dead Man's Hand games. I won round 1, I lost round 2.
Yeah,
that's plenty common. It just means you're going to
normal.
round 2 with a slight advantage, but
yes,
you're not. It's not that substantial.
No. And you generally get rather decisive outcomes at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a little bit about Dead Man's Hand as a game. It's got a small miniatures count. It's played in 3 parts. There's a lot of player agency in it because you've got a hand of cards as well as this kind of initiative thing. And because it's been around for a long time and been popular. So if you're happy with the boxes of metal miniatures, there's loads of supplements. There's loads of alternatives. You've got like a undead version of it, among other things, haven't you?
Yeah.
There's and then there's a campaign version and the legends version. There's loads of these different things, and you can bolt on all over the place. And there's loads of flavor in the character. I've got the metal banditos. I used them as an experiment the first time I ever used speed paints. They painted up lovely. Gave them all names like El Gordo and Jesus, of course. But they're really stylized, even though the stat line, this is just a guy with a pistol, right?
Yes.
But he looks different. And we were talking a little bit before the show about plastic versus metal. One of the things that I start to niggle a little bit about it is I've never seen anybody make a fat plastic miniature that wasn't a fantasy model.
Yes.
Where's the fat guy? Where's the thin guy? Where's the tall guy? Where's the short guy?
Yes.
You know, whereas in metal, if you want a guy with a belly, you're going to need to get a metal figure. And there's no shortage of them in the wargaming world, I can tell you, Stuart.
Yeah.
Although you're a pretty lean man yourself from memory, but many of us are twice the men we were when we were young.
Hey, well, I'm going to add that as a design note for the next set of plastic foot figures that we've got.
A Shatner Podge.
Yes, if you like. If you want to put it that way, I will propose that we make one of the bodies a little bit heavier than the rest of them.
Nice. I'd love to see that, Stuart.
I will make it as a suggestion. You can come back to me. And if we don't do it, you can say, why didn't you do it? And I can say, well, because the project manager didn't want to.
Yeah,
but I'm going to make it a serious. I'm going to present it, and I think I can make the case.
Because you know what I mean, though, about plastic armies often lack character, which is why if you buy a Modern Games Workshop model, they're all plastic, all right, but they're monopose or nearly monopose, because they can characterize them when they do that. They can give them that distinctiveness. So anyway, Dead Man's Hand, massively successful game. That game, and I think about, not only did that box set last year sell extremely well, it wasn't a launch box. No. Many people already had Dead Man's Hand and had already played it. You know, it was already a very established, very successful game.
Yeah.
And yet you sold, I don't know how many you made, but it must have been thousands.
No, we didn't make that many because we released it. We did it twice, actually.
Yes.
We did it twice. We did it once. We did it before the plastic figures. And then we did it with the plastic figures. And the print run was I think it was about 1,000 each time.
Right.
And actually the speed at which they sold took us by a little bit of surprise as well, actually.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason we thought the first one would last longer, and really the second one was probably really heavily influenced by the fact that there was a first one, and that we knew that way down the line we were going to do a new Dead Man's Hand. But we were there with these. We just developed these plastic gunfighters, and we've got Dead Man's Hand. I mean, it was the natural thing to do, really. It was it kind of demanded it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way that sold just really solidified or took all of the doubt out of what we were doing with doing plastic buildings. Because when we were initially thinking about doing this Dead Man's Hand second edition box, the initial thought was doing card buildings.
Right. Now that's not dead, and I've seen some really nice cardboard stuff. It's not for me.
It wasn't for us. That's the thing. When we actually really thought about it and talked about it, we thought, well, what would be the best thing that we could do? And we said, well, it would be plastic buildings.
Of course it is.
And if we couldn't do it, then we wouldn't do it. So then we went on a long journey of investigating the feasibility of developing and manufacturing plastic buildings, because I don't think anybody's done it before outside a Games Workshop. Maybe one of the big fantasy companies has, but I can't readily think off the top of my head any company that's done this before.
Hard plastic building. So Warlord have got a couple, but they don't have a range.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's the kind of presenting it, because it's the premium, it's the headline of the product.
Yeah,
Dead Man's Hand. You get the buildings in it, and the buildings are so
iconic.
Absolutely, it's the iconic. It's why you're attracted to the Old West.
Yes,
it's on the front of the box, so that's your scene.
Every time I review an introductory set for rank beginners, I have two things that I'm looking for in there. Other than, like, there's the rules, there's the figures, there's the tools you need to play. My first question is, where's the 3-foot playmat?
Yeah.
If we've never played this game before, where's my playmat? Because a bit of printed paper is a lot better than my mom's kitchen table.
Yes.
And the second one is, where's there a bit of scenery? And I would prefer to see a piece of scenery in every substantially priced wargaming set.
Yes.
Because it's the weakest part of everybody's collection.
Yes.
Because spending £150 on getting scenery for your table is something that you need to really commit to the project.
Totally.
But if every time I bought a £50 or £70 box set, I got a bit of scenery in it that was specific to the theatre, people's collection, there would just be so much more of it out there. And we, the saddest thing in the world to see is 100 beautifully painted figures in an army on a bit of green baize with 2 repainted ice cream tubs as scenery, and you see it all the time in Wargames clubs.
Yeah, and that's because we wanted to present that. We wanted to say to people, "Oh, play the Old West," and we wanted to be able to, give them the key things, because and the only way we could do it, the only way, because cardboard was unacceptable,
right?
MDF unacceptable. You can't manufacture MDF fast enough,
right?
So
I did want to talk about the MDF.
That's it. Yeah, I love the MDF.
Go on, you carry on. You go on, Karen.
But the only way to actually complete the project was with plastic buildings, because we're not, we want to get out to a lot of people. We want to give our company a chance to do that, and the chance that we've got to do that is by creating an all plastic product, which has your scenery in it, that has the set in the box.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's done that. except for Games Workshop, they've done it a couple of times. Like what they did I think they did a Lord of the Rings one with a big town in it. But
right.
But the buildings are the focus of are a major focus of the game.
Yeah, and for historical gamers, I think it's more important because they need to reflect the setting. It's like, you know, I've painted up my desert tanks for Tobruk, but all I've got is green felt to play it on.
Yeah,
You know, those and all it takes is just a few sandbags and a gun emplacement on a brown cloth, and suddenly you've made that transition. You know, a few pieces of scenery can really change it when they're in theatre. So should we have a look at some pictures, Stuart?
Yes.
I'm going to talk us through pictures. I'm conscious we sort of talk for an hour, and then hopefully some things will come out of that. When we get to the buildings, we'll talk about the MDF versus plastic when we get to that, if that's all right. So you've got a Kickstarter, and these are pictures for the Kickstarter. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Let's find some of these pictures. If I go onto the right screen, here we go. Just going to start with this one, if I may. Can you see that, the box set?
I'm still seeing this screen.
Do apologize. I think I know what to do.
Dave Brooks says, let's hear it for the gunslinger with a beer belly. See, look, I was right to do it. That's got it. That's what people are looking for. Definitely.
Are we going to get a 3D scan of you, Kaiser? The old prospector.
I don't have a... Oh, mate! I'll shave the beard off and just have a tash if I'm going to be a gunslinger. Mike and I used to actually play Texas Hold'em when I first met him when we were on the Isle of Wight. We did. You know, that's as close we got in real life to Dead Man's Hand.
All in, Kaiser.
All in, mate. All in. If I got a decent hand, I'm all in. So this is the box art, I assume, Stuart.
Yeah, this is the box art. It's not the finished box front. This is just the sort of work in progress. But yeah, we work with an artist called Marco Caparoni, and we always wanted a sort of a hint of a retro style.
Yeah,
there's the hint of retro to it, but we wanted it to be bright and modern. We'd gone with the sepia look of Dead Man's Hand, and do you know what? That's great. But we just wanted to do something different.
Yeah. I love to see the two things you just did there, which was great. One is commissioning artists to do work to support the materials.
Yeah.
Unique art. I love that. And you told us the guy's name.
Yes.
Credited the artist.
Yes.
There's not enough of that happens in the industry. So well done for both of those things from me there, Stuart.
Thank you. This is so buildings. This is I just wanted to show, because I get this question all the time. Has it got interior detail? And so first off, we've got buildings with interior detail, and this is what they look like on the tabletop. Those are three of the buildings all painted up. With
Can
the
I just say that this is back to the conversation previously. It's not just detail; it's texture.
Yes.
Getting the texture on an MDF building.
Yeah.
But you've got the shingles and you've got the planking, and that's what's attracting me to it. As I say, it's detail and texture that I don't have to put on. I've just got to paint.
Yeah, and we deliberately made it really deep on all these buildings and boardwalks as well, so that they're really easy to paint. I think you recognize, I don't know about you guys, but you recognize maybe when you're a little bit older that your time is far more precious than your money. And so I wanted buildings and Mark wanted buildings that you could knock together and paint up real quick.
And seeing these in plastic, this is an hour with some heavy dry brushing, and you're going to get some that looks decent, right?
Yeah.
You look like you could paint these with a 1-inch brush and be done.
Yeah, and I think Mark did some of them with speed paints as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the Kickstarter page, there's a video or on our YouTube channel, there's a video where Mark shows you how to paint the buildings, and he just paints one panel with speed paints and just does a bit of dry brush on. And it's very simple, and it looks great. Looks cracking.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to crudely pass through some of these because building. That's what we want, isn't it?
Are we in danger? Can we see things here that we're not supposed to see? They're not out there yet. And
I don't. I think they're pretty safe. I think
Kickstarter stretch rewards that you've actually already got sculpts for, that kind of
thing. Yeah, this was just we loved the cover of the. I'll get to the cover of the book at some point, but we loved the cover of the book so much that we said, "Oh, we've just got to make figures of all of these because they look so good."
Oh, so you've made a metal figure range?
Yeah,
of the guys on the cover art. Nice.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to.
Is there an arrow on the right for you?
There it is. There's the arrow. There's one of the other. I'm going to go through. This is just like my file of various pictures. This is the cover of the book.
And that guy on the left is the guy from the original concept art, isn't he? That or figure looking like
yeah,
that.
he's heavily. Yeah, he is. Yeah. So he was always going to be in it. And then we like the others represent each of the factions in the. There's an outlaw, then a cowboy, and a desperado. So it sort of gives you a flavor of who's inside. Again, these are all Marco Caproni's work. We got him to do we did a lot of concept, quite a bit of concept stuff. Again, on the Kickstarter page, if you go to we've got Dead Man's Hand Daily News, and we've been putting up some of Marco's concept art for the box covers. He's actually done all but one of our box covers. He didn't do Gunfighters 1, but he did it in the sort of style, kept the style of Gunfighters 1, the Gunfighters 1 box, and we just love the way he works with us. This is we're going around the shows at the moment. We'll be at Warfare in Farnborough in a couple of weeks, taking this gaming table around, and that's we're just sort of trying to show people, this is what you get in the box. You can play Dead Man's Hand right out of the box. Sorry,
is that the Reading one?
Farnborough.
No, this one.
Reading's War Games Club that run the Farnborough one.
Yeah, that's Reading War Games Club. Yeah,
in an aircraft hangar.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
we went there last year, didn't we, Mike?
No, we didn't. We were planning to. I'm going there next week Saturday, the 11th.
Yeah.
11th and 12th.
Right. I think maybe I went there with James and John.
I think it was you didn't. We were going to go, but I couldn't make it. But yeah,
I
might have to rethink what I said to you the other day. Sorry, the preacher with a bulletproof Bible.
This is actually a new gang that's out next year.
Oh right,
he's the leader. He's the leader of the family.
Oh, right. Oh, so he's not a preacher. He's just a God-fearing man.
He's a very God-feering man.
Right.
Buildings.
There was a picture of you there, Stuart, for anyone that didn't know.
There was a picture of me there. That was from one of the YouTube videos, yeah.
I wouldn't play the guy on the left if I had to pick one of them for my faction.
It's useless, that one on the left.
That's not a natural hair color, is it?
It's all natural. It's all natural. All long and beautiful and natural. There you go. There's a building with boardwalks.
Building with boardwalks. So, plastic buildings versus MDF buildings. You talked about it. You're absolutely right. Nobody really does this. They look fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I have seen plastic buildings before. Railway stuff, but it's too small for 28 mil.
The old Airfix 172nd.
172s, yeah.
Yeah, and the HO, with old 25 mil miniatures, it wasn't far off.
Yeah.
But this is great to see. But one of the things I was wondering was, like, there's some risks here, right? Because a lot of people have already bought a lot of. Sarissa made a whole range of stuff to go.
Yeah.
Now I don't know whether they did that in collaboration with you or not,
No.
or they just did it off their own bat.
Yeah.
But this product makes the Sarissa products pretty redundant, right? Because this is a significantly better finish for a lot less effort.
This is, yeah. I mean, there's going to be room for everybody to buy water tower. I mean, it's not like we're going to do a plastic water tower, are we?
Right.
Or any of those sorts of more unusual things. But yeah, this is going to be the core of your town, and we got more coming. We've got double story ones as well.
So is this at the moment? This is one kit with different frontages.
No, this is the one kit. Has all of them have the same frontage, all the same. The walls are reversible. All your walls and all your outer walls are reversible, so you can have different configurations. But within the construction of all of the sprues, that was the real challenge with making these buildings. You see, because one sprue, one tool is just the base. So just the base and the ceiling are the same part. We cleverly,
because you've got a floor. You're right.
Yeah.
You've got a floor because you've got interiors, so you have to have a floor.
Yeah, and then you've got, but then with that floor, the underside of that floor is beams, so it forms the ceiling of the next level.
Right.
But that takes up one entire frame.
Right.
And you know, tooling one plastic frame is an awful lot of money. And then you've got your other frames that have your other parts. Now, what we're doing is we're going to, for example, with the double story building utilizes the single story building, but introduces some new frames which have your stairway on it, your balcony.
Oh, right. So it's not just two of these kits, but with only one copy of the boardwalks and roof.
No, and the double story one has a different roof, has an A-frame roof.
Right.
And it has a different header board.
Right. But you can mix and match because they're identical front width.
Yeah.
Right. So what about a saloon though, Stuart? Come on, with swing doors.
Well, exactly.
Where's that?
What we have to do is sell an awful lot of these to make it an entirely, because what it's got to do, because there's a business ethos behind this as well. What it's got to do is end up being the whole building project has to be effectively self-funding after a while. You know, we've put a lot of money into it already, but then it needs to become self-funding so that it becomes a viable product. And it will, I believe it will. And then that will lead us into doing, because we've already started doing the groundwork, some of the groundwork for what bigger buildings will look like. Because of course, then we can go up to a bigger size building and double story that as well, so that you can get sort of an idea of having a bank and then a saloon, and then you can have interchangeable parts, and you can then do it, paint it as you want and model it as you want.
And then there's that other house in every Western town which needs a lot more upstairs space and maybe some couches downstairs.
And yes, of course, we are open for business for everybody.
Indeed. Right. Okay. That's lovely. Would someone be able to make? Could you glue another one of these on the side of the first one and make a double width building? Will that work?
See, with some modeling, you will. I'm actually really interested to see what people do, because I know what you're all like out there. You're going to be cutting things up and thinking, oh, if I cut this here, I can do that. And I think we'll see a lot of bigger buildings being made out of these. I'm very curious how it would be done. And I think because these are actually quite simple kits, so that kit there, I should remember how many parts these are, with the roof and header board on, but without the porch on. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces, I think. Plus your doors and internal wall.
Right.
It's because each door is 2 pieces, so that would be like 15 pieces, even with the doors. So they're really quite simple kits. And that's another advantage we have over that you have with the plastic over the MDF, is that with the MDF kits you have to have a lot of pieces, don't you?
You do. The other thing is you can do round things, which is a nightmare in MDF.
Yes.
Kit bashing those building kits that you just said, Tommy Mac says, is going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
And to know that the sort of the longer term plan is to bring more pieces, but the church, the brothel, the saloon, these are. I mean, a church is one of the first things in every American town, isn't it?
Yes.
First thing they're going to build.
Yeah. Church first or saloon?
Is the door fixed, or is it do you glue it in closed or open position, or is there a hinge?
It swings open. You can open it and close it.
Brilliant.
Had to be. It's dead man's hand. You're going in and out of buildings. We had to have doors that opened.
That's another feature that's not available on a lot of the MDF stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
But
what's the footprint? How big is this, Stuart?
This one's 15 by 10, so it fits really well with the foreground size buildings.
Right.
I think you'll find they're a little bit bigger than the Renedra buildings. I think the Renedra buildings are more they're near a 25 mil scale. I think the Renedra ones.
They're a little bit small, aren't they, for modern stuff? The window sizes and door sizes, they're lovely. They got like a barn, a church, and a farmhouse, haven't they? And John's got that.
I bought Mead's house to put into my village, and then it just looks. I put it in the background and sort of like for forced perspective because it stands out so much.
Now there's a thing for you, Stuart, a man of a God-fearing man such as you. Why don't you make the church and brothel like a dual kit? So if you build it this way, you get the church, and if you build it that way, you get the brothel. And then we won't judge people for the fact that they all made the brothel with it.
Yeah.
It caters for the body and soul, then, doesn't it?
Yes. That's a picture of the building there. You can see that's without the porch on it as well. The porch comes with the kit.
The window panes, they're in the plastic frame, or do you have to
fixed
them separately?
Completely fixed. Yeah.
Because stuff like that can be quite fiddly, isn't it?
Yeah, we didn't want any fiddly. You had to have the doors. You have to have a door frame and a door for each of your doors, because that's the only way it's going to open and close. And
the games on that scale, it matters where the model enters the building, right? That's quite an important part of the thinking.
Absolutely. I'll just wing through some pictures. We're giving away a new figure with some of the Kickstarter things. This is another figure we did from the cover. Hey,
the mariachi band!
I saw that the other day. Yeah.
We've sold quite a lot of these.
These are in metal, are they?
They're in metal, and no, they don't do anything in the game except look cool.
Cosmetic. No.
The Three Amigos.
Random citizens do have an impact on the game on some of the cards.
Yes.
Hostages.
They're not. There's hostage. Sometimes one of them pull a gun on you.
Yes, you can have them pop up and fight.
Yeah.
If you enter a building, the other person can play Defend the Homestead, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So you run into a building and get shotgunned.
And
I like that.
And there are rules. You can actually have citizens in the game in certain scenes in the new rules. This one's next to a foreground building. Your telegraph office here is a foreground building.
Right.
So it's a really good, really close size comparison.
Are you packaging the buildings with any other gubbins? By which I mean like acetate to back the windows with, stickers for the header boards. Is there anything like that coming with them?
Well, no, and there is a reason for that. We did investigate this. Acetate for the window was never really going to be a thing in these kits, but then we looked at how you might do the header boards, And we looked at things like doing decals. Decals you wouldn't work on the header boards. We don't think. Yeah, they'd be too difficult. We think you'd mess using them. You'd mess them up too often.
Yeah. When you design a simple kit, that I'm thinking about trying to put a decal on a surface like that, and thinking I would hate that kit.
Yeah. So I think Mark's the project manager for this, and he's within the instructions. He's going to do templates. I think he's going to do templates of like suggested header boards that you can sort of blue tack on and I'm not quite sure how he's going to do it. Some sort of ideas of how to affix something to your header board and sort of use it as a stencil. Yeah, it's definitely difficult.
In my MDF ones, the frame around the front of the header board normally comes with when it comes on the sprue, it's got a flat piece of MDF you push out. I've tended to make the actual building with one header on it, and then use that piece of spare MDF with a different header. So you've got each building's got two different uses, so you can mix them around.
Yeah, there are always a number of design choices you make and you have to make. And yeah, I think it's going to be interesting what people do with because actually putting those signs on is quite difficult.
If you have to freehand it, it's a very different skill to miniature painting.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are going to like make use of these templates that we're going to make.
Some stenciling does work.
Yeah. And the kits and the boardwalks come with all lots of other bits on them as well. So they're coming. You get a barrel on them, some crows. With the boardwalks, you get water troughs and saddles, hitching posts, all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, I was wondering about hitching posts. Wasn't on the previous building pit. Those things are always nice to see. One of the things I keep meaning to feed back to the Flames of War people when I talk to them, they say, "Can you put a new bit of stowage item on every tank kit you make from now on, ever forwards?
Yes,
just a different sized canvas lump, or whatever. Because as I build 10 different types of tank, I'm gonna have loads of variety in my storage. To make these things that all look the same."
We're getting better and better at doing that. And I think
you've got like bits of cactus on the infantry sprue, isn't there? Yeah. So just having a few bits of that's a really nice touch and really helps flavor. Because the problem I have with scatter scenery is it's so important for the look of the board, but has no impact on the play of the board.
Yeah.
And so to go out of your way and get it, it's like something you pick up at a show and never get round to. But if it's on the sprue while you're building it, you've got these things to make it lived in.
Yes.
Again, going back, the MDF troughs and hitching rails, they're sort of like they're 5 mil bits of MDF, and they just look absolutely massive.
Yes.
They're bigger than the gallows or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the boardwalks is what's selling it for me. They just sort of like tie the buildings in.
They really do, don't they?
Rather than just being several buildings.
Yeah.
The boardwalks, and especially like they're going down the sides as well.
And if you're someone who, one of the other things cosmetically is a sculpted board is beautiful, but replayability is really poor long term.
Yes.
But with those boardwalks, you can put a town layout down opposite sides of the road and not glue the buildings in and swap them around and leave some gaps and things like that.
Yes.
And then you have a different game each time. Because you're still going to build that street, right? That's pretty much your own. You're going to build the street.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or you build a farmstead, which is the other option.
There's you've got to remember with these old towns, they built the buildings and then it was a mud hole between them. So that's why the boardwalks are there.
Yeah.
So you don't get your boots dirty or your dress dirty walking between them. So even if there's no buildings and there's just a stretch of boardwalk, you've still got that feel to it.
Yeah, I like it. I like
This
it.
is another old foreground double-story building.
That wagon kit, is that the one you brought out already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then
this
is that was out in the summer. This one's a street scatter sprue, which is just boxes and barrels and things and bits and pieces.
And a crate of whiskey and a milk churn.
Whiskey, which is, you don't see many of those, which will be out along with everything else in April. It's all part of the Kickstarter.
And a single wagon wheel.
And that, I love a single wagon wheel leaning against the wall. We have one with John. Every bolt action game we've ever played on camera, that wagon wheel is on the board somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a little Easter egg for you people who follow the channel closely. Where is that lonely wagon wheel that John has placed carefully somewhere? And I like that because it's usable. That knickknacks you just showed, that's usable in a range of periods because it's just cases and boxes.
Yeah.
Is that coming with the wagon sprue, or is that available as a separate sprue?
That's available. It'll be as you'll get 2 sprues per set. I think it'll be. I'm not sure on the Kickstarter. They're £5 each. I'm not sure what they'll be when they come to retail.
Once you have to package them and you got SKU code.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be 10 or £12 for 2 sprues, probably.
Yeah. It's nice to see Rubicon have done a little bit of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we've had a look, but their furniture set, it's too small.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit too small, unfortunately for me. And I had a look at it. Anyway, you carry on, Stuart. Let's see the rest of the pickies.
So there we've just got a couple of little street scenes at the end.
Prospector there. Oh, there's the hitching post you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah, there's a saddle over a hitching post there as well.
Very nice.
And I will be able to find for you, I think, while we're chatting, I'll see if I can find the double-story building as well, because that is...
Oh, is this definitely coming then? I wasn't sure whether that was like a plan for down the line.
Well, yeah, it's definitely coming out. When it comes out is the question.
Right.
If we get the... Because what we're doing now is we're making big manufacturing runs. So we're placing our manufacturing orders now to fulfill the Kickstarter. You know, if we get what we need to do, you know, get up to £100,000, what we'll be able to do is press the button on doing the double story building a lot sooner than otherwise we'd be able to. Which would be lovely, because I think I'd love them all to come out together rather than have to wait a few months for the double story one to come out. Yeah.
To raise the funds. So the 2-player starter set then, can you tell us that's on Kickstarter? I looked at the Kickstarter last week and the information wasn't there yet. I know you sent some stuff to traders in an email, but can you tell the viewers what that, if they want to get that 2-player set, because this is not a £20 set. There's loads of new plastic in there.
Yeah.
What will they get in it for what cost? If you're happy to share that.
Yeah, that's I'll tell you what's in there's going to be there is currently a Kickstarter version which has a bit more stuff in it. Right. The general release version will have 10 male gunfighters, 5 lady gunfighters, 3 buildings, a sprue of boardwalks, and a sprue of street scatter, your rule book, dice, cards, and markers.
So everything you need to play.
Yeah, I think that's all of them. Yeah, I covered everything.
And
yeah,
is that sounds like if that's after the Kickstarter, that's early next year, then presumably you're not going to see.
Yeah, April. April is the release date.
And but for early adopters and enthusiasts who want the Kickstarter, you said there's some more in there. What's that going to cost for a person who wants to get the Kickstarter backing?
£90. £90, and that one you get an extra 5 gunfighters, and you get a whole wagon in it as well.
You get the new wagon as well.
It's got £27.50 worth of extra stuff in it.
Right. And that's before the stretch goals, which is it?
Yeah. Oh no, that's most of the stretch goals. That includes some of those were stretch goals. So we kind of had a base game, a base box, and then we presented this idea that if we got to certain stretch goals, then what we'd do is we'd chuck some extra value in the box for you. And you know, rather than, because we could have started out with a discounted box, but it's a pretty decent value anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So I think adding some extra value in it was better. And you know, you need an extra wagon anyway. Everybody needs an extra wagon.
Yeah, yeah. Now, interesting. I was just thinking about that. You're playing with a friend, you get a box each.
Yeah.
That's going to give you 6 buildings, couple of wagons, loads of boardwalks and scatter. That's probably the level at which maybe you're not complete, but you're pretty close to completing. And the game's at a stage now where a lot of existing players will know whether they do or don't want that, you know.
Yep.
I guess, yeah. So that sounds really good. Best of luck with the Kickstarter. I'm sure it will go incredibly well because I think a lot of people will want this.
I'm signing up after the show. So
there you go. Now other plastics, then, because you know, we talked before the show. You're a man that understands that what the community wants is plastic. And
Yes.
I remember when we spoke to you, I think it was the one in North London in the sports centre. You'd mentioned you might be getting around to doing other gangs in plastic.
Oh yeah.
Is that something you can talk about yet?
I can tell you what we're planning. That's the double-story building, our double-story building, if you can see that. And you can see that it's got a different header. And you can also see, you can just see that it's got an A-frame roof as well instead of the flat roof. So as part of the Kickstarter, actually, the very end stretch goal is for mounted gunfighters, but the mounted gunfighters are actually finished. They've been sculpted. The next stage for them is tooling. And what we were going to do is, if we get up to those heady heights in the Kickstarter, then we'll bring the production of that box set forward quite a number of months, and that'll also enable us to start on the next box set after that. Which, I mean, the next one after that, we were thinking we would probably release in December of next year. But I'd like to, because it's Banditos, plastic Banditos.
I remember you saying plastic Banditos, but I hadn't heard you say anything since. So I wasn't sure whether the idea had been canned.
No, plastic Banditos. We tend to think long and hard about these things and make decisions that we commit to. If we've told you any secrets, it's probably pretty much cast in stone,
right?
Because you got to think that far ahead, eh? We've got to think, there's a lot to consider, and of course there's a massive cost to it. But yeah, plastic Banditos, how cool would they be?
I don't know. I painted the metal ones up already, so I don't know. Because that if there's something I don't think you often works well is that plastic models often don't look good alongside metal ones.
Yes,
the proportions and stuff are often different.
Yes,
because you have different problems with plastic, and it can do some bits better and some bits worse than metal.
Yeah,
things like hand sizes are often massively different on a metal model.
Yeah,
you know, finger fidelity on metal models is one of the things I judge the quality of a model by. So how many fingers has this guy got?
Yeah.
and are they 4 fingers, or is it just one club hand with grooves in it? You know. But I realize that I've lived with that, you know, all my life as a war gamer. It's a consequence of the material. Right. So learn me up. This looks like it's wrong. Why are there steps on the upper deck? And
external staircase.
No, I mean on the front, on the boardwalk. So on the hardware on the left, and on the big one on the right, you've both got on the top boardwalk, there's some steps that don't complete. There must that can't be an accident.
No, they do complete. Are you seeing something different?
I think it's the mirror base of the that they're sat on. You're getting the reflection.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a reflection. Are you sure?
Yeah,
I think it's a reflection.
If you look at the grey steps on the saloon, there's 2 steps, and then the third one is the mirror image of the bottom step.
Yes.
It's on a mirrored floor, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking there was a whole level below them.
No.
And it's the mirror. Right.
It does look like a 3-story building for a...
Yeah. It does a very good job. Right, I'm looking at this completely differently now. I was thinking, wow, they're really big.
Yes.
No, they're twice the height that they actually are. All right. So I was in my old eyes. Thank you very much. Now, Todd did say, because we have passed the 1 hour mark, and I'm sure everybody wants to go to bed. But I did mean to do this. I know it's off topic, but if you time at the end, could you ask you if there are any supplements, Marios, or updates coming for Iron Cross? So for those of you that don't know, one of Great Escape Games' other significant figure ranges and rule set is Iron Cross. It's a pretty fast play set of World War II 28mm rules. And you have a huge range of miniatures dealing with minor World War II powers for that as well, don't you, Stuart?
Yes. With French mountain troops, 1940 coming next.
Right. I hope every one of them has a twirly moustache.
There is definitely a preponderance of twirly moustaches.
Outrageous berets. Those Alpine troops actually did have outrageous berets.
They had outrageous berets, and we've got plenty of outrageous berets. Iron Cross. Iron Cross does really well. We love Iron Cross. We are currently play testing a version 2, but version 2 will not be out next year. Possibly not even the year after. Certainly not next year. Nowhere near. What we're doing right now is we've got a load of ideas. It's basically the same, but we've learned a bit, and we've got a load of extra ideas. That's all being play tested now. We were supposed to discuss that in the summer, but other things took over. Actually, the business moving. We moved in the summer, which is an enormous operation, even for a small business.
Did you move to Nottingham, the mecca of war games?
No, we moved from Unit 10 Alexandra Industrial Estate to Unit 6 Alexandra Industrial Estate.
That seems like a lot of work for a small distance. Presumably it's a bigger place, is it?
It's nearly twice the size. So
right.
So yeah, we took the opportunity came. I saw the opportunity and I said, you know what, we're going to take that opportunity, and we did. But that cost me the summer, much of my summer. So yeah, that was when we were going to do some Iron Cross review stuff, but that's been knocked forward now to next summer. So it'd probably be, if we were going to do Iron Cross 2nd edition or any extra, 2025. Be 2025.
In terms of supplements, I mean, it's good to hear that you're not planning on releasing a supplement and then releasing a new edition. I get very, very cross with companies. I understand that scheduling can get complicated, but when you buy a supplement for a game system and then 3 months later, after they release that,
you've got to get a couple of years out of it, haven't you?
I feel so as a consumer. It's the problem with print media, isn't it? Though, it's when you get it, because I'm a librarian, you know, and I understand that when the writer finished it was probably a year ago.
Yeah.
So when you get it in your hand, it might not be as long as that in terms of a business your size printing, but it's still a long time after they've actually been finished before they get out on circulation. So that's Iron Cross. I'm always interested, but I suspect you've probably finished your first World War 12mm range. I said this before to anyone on the channel. If you've not seen Great Escape Games 12mm World War I figures, they're beautiful metal miniatures. They're way better than the 15s that I've seen that other people do. They're absolutely gorgeous sculpts. There's not a huge range of poses, but you wouldn't expect it in that kind of scale. It's a mass battle thing. And you wouldn't really see the difference in the poses in most cases. Is that range complete now?
Well, the Russians and the Austrians are lovely. Those figures are lovely. Yeah, we've got them done. They're all ready to go. The armies are both painted. As soon as I get them into the release schedule with the little booklet that comes with them, then they're going to get released. But I'm holding all of that up. It's all down to me, and it's entirely my fault. And I've promised myself, as a punishment, what I'll do is I'm going to do the Serbians along with them.
Right.
And then as soon as we're ready to release, I'm going to commission the Serbians to be done. So then we'll release that we'll release Austrians and Russians together, and then a little while down the road, Serbians.
But they'll all come in the same booklet.
Yeah. And that will pretty much complete, although there's a couple of little extra bits that we will do. A couple of little Belgian packs I want to add.
You're going to have dog teams pulling their dratted machine guns.
Possibly.
Do it. If you've not seen this, the Belgians use teams of dogs to pull machine guns.
Which is why, and that very fact is why it has to be done. Because
it's just bonkers, right?
It is. It's brilliant.
It's like, we don't have to have a guy to carry this. We can have 4 dogs pull it. Like, what? I think it's 2, actually.
Well, I do believe there were actually pictures of Finnish sled teams with anti-tank guns pulled by moose.
Mate, you got to make that model. What I love about hearing stories like that from manufacturers like you is you probably want to make that model too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, oh look, they're doing some Finns next year. I wonder was that moose going to feature in it? So that's that. And the reason this came up is because Mr. Will GM for Food, although it doesn't declare what systems that is, if that's just D&D, I'm not interested. Cthulhu, I'm listening. Anyway, some King's African Rifles or German Ascari. I know in your World War I rule set, you've very much gone with the design philosophy and time period. You're talking about 1914. It's open fields warfare. It's firing artillery over open sites kind of stuff. Still a few cavalry charges if you're stupid enough. It's that era and that style of fighting. And that style of fighting is very much still going on in Mesopotamia, in Palestine, and in East Africa. The East African story of the First World War, for anyone that hasn't read it, Leto Vorbeck and his guerrilla campaign is a fantastic story of human endurance in combat situation, real boys' own stuff. Could you be persuaded to do Indian Army, King's African Rifles, German Ascari?
Well, I would never rule anything out.
It's daring do stuff. It's real,
Version 2 starter box.
Yeah.
Because apart from Callistra do some, but Callistra makes some nice 12mm as well, but they're just a little bit chunkier than yours.
What kind of level? Because obviously Palestine's obviously much more well known. But what kind of size of engagement was going on in East Africa?
Oh, it's rarely more than a few battalions. But your game, when we played it, it's kind of brigade level, right?
Yeah.
So that would be some of the biggest actions in East Africa would be on that sort of scale.
Yeah.
So they would fit. You wouldn't. They were deployed usually by company, but then so were U.S. rifle battalions.
Yeah.
So that's a level of abstract that we don't normally go down to when we're playing wargaming on that scale. Anyway, you just put the battalion down. The reality is each of these companies is each of these bases really is deployed quite separately.
Yeah.
And there's a colonel somewhere with landlines or a radio set or whatever, controlling them all. So it still fits. It would still work within your system, and they're all. Whereas the British strength, the South Africans land a couple of divisions, and that's why it's such a great story. But the stuff that's going on with, the Arab revolt in the Ottomans in Palestine and in Mesopotamia, they're big. They're big battles.
I know. And see, when you mentioned that, I wanted to expand on the conversation a bit because actually that's probably the side of it that most attracts me when you talk of what else was going on in that exact time period.
Yeah. And again, we kind of, because of the Australian aspect to it, is we rather fixate on Gallipoli when we think about the World War I against the Ottoman Empire. But this is Lawrence of Arabia, right? This is the same war. This is camels, horses, and armored cars in the same army. You know, this is fun stuff in terms of gaming.
This is romance. This romance.
Yes, romance is the word. Yeah, it's boys' own romance stuff. Biplanes, leather flying jackets, pipes, all that stuff.
Oh, yes.
And it's not just the British doing it, it's everyone.
Yes.
Everyone's doing that. So the Germans had a cruiser that was trapped in Rufiji, which is Tanzania's major river. And the British had tried to sink this cruiser, and they'd sent these monitors and things up the river, which had sailed from Newcastle to try and bomb it. And there's a whole load of stories of how they go all kind of deal with that. But eventually they take the 10 guns off this cruiser, build carriages for them in workshops, and are dragging these naval guns around for 4 years. That's the Germans' artillery. Because a cruiser, you don't think of a cruiser as a big warship, but actually warships are massive compared to infantry scale of things.
Yeah.
So, cruisers' guns are huge compared to land artillery.
Isn't some of that the history behind the Navy gun crew challenge, where they dismantle the guns and carry them across?
We definitely had to do that, it's all mountain guns. They send some motor torpedo boats, and they have to be broken down, and they're carried by porters across through the jungle to get them onto one of the lakes. Because this war doesn't end. And so there's so many great stories to tell in that period, which are away from the mud and the blood of Flanders.
Yes,
they're a bit more like as I say, the environment is much more of a problem than the fighting. But you've got small scale maneuver and all of that. I think you could really get into it, Stuart. Armored cars and camels. Come on.
See, do you know one thing that's true? I find it quite interesting. I'm not into fantasy. I like science fiction. I love science fiction, but I don't really have much time for fantasy because I find it because history's so much cooler than fantasy.
Yes,
it just is, and there's so much of it, and it's on our doorstep, and we actually live and breathe the consequences of it. And that's why there are no boring wars, no uninteresting conflicts. It's just you may not be interested in a conflict because you don't know about it. Because if you did know about it, you'd find out stories about the cruiser and holding the guns off.
Yeah. The Königsberg, by the way, is what it was. But those two bits I just mentioned, like about the boats, is what the African Queen movie is based upon. That's set in this. That's the Germans that they can only get away from.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm going back and watching African Queen now.
Catherine Hepburn, mate.
That's what we're watching.
That old movie.
I'll message her right now. That's what we're watching Friday night.
African Queen. Got to watch a movie for background every time.
Yeah. Don't watch Lawrence of Arabia. There's a lot of sand. It goes on for a long time. Right. So we talked about We talked about Iron Cross. We've talked about. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten the name of your Great War game, Stuart.
1914.
1914 is what it's called. 1914. We talked about Dead Man's Hand is the big one. I'm trying to think of your others. So you've got, is it called Chicago Way? Is your Prohibition gangster game?
Way as well.
Yeah.
Very familiar rule set for people who played Dead Man's Hand. Not identical, but
The Untouchables is the two of the model sets.
Yeah,
it's the Untouchables.
there is
Mr.
quite a lot of
Capone.
influence there.
Yeah.
Any new releases planned for that?
Yeah, we just recently did a couple of new factions for that.
Right.
The popular one has been Peaky Blinders, quite unsurprisingly.
Right. Yes.
So many of them. Sold so many. And we'd always intended to do just the gang and a couple of extra packs, but we're going to do a couple of extra packs of Peaky Blinders just because they've been a lot of fun.
People want them, right?
Yeah, and they want some different weapons. Everybody's been saying, "Oh, you need some rifles."
All right, I need Shelby with a Thompson. I need Shelby with a rifle.
Well,
I need Shelby with an
Thompson.
automatic.
Yeah, they want just guys with packs with rifles and for a very British Civil War type games.
Yes, very British Civil War.
And we're gonna have two new factions for them next year as well.
Right.
We don't know which two factions because it's out. I think there are 4 in the running, and we're going to pick 2 of them.
Right. Okay. And that's all you're going to stay on that for now.
Well, I think because I'm Canadian, one of them's at the top of the list at the moment. But
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
Right.
What have I forgotten then, Stuart? What else? I know you do more games than this.
We do loads more. Loads more. We're actually Clash of Empires. I am going to do more lists for. But do you know what the problem is? The problem is I work too much.
Yeah,
and I do too much work in operations, in operational stuff.
That's not the bit you enjoy.
No, it's actually not the bit I do best. I do quite enjoy it actually, but it's not. I'm not the best at it. So somebody is joining. We're having a new person joining next month, who's going to be in charge of all of the sort of back office administration. So she's going to be a company administrator,
Right.
which we now need because I can't do it all anymore. So that'll take. We're hoping that eventually, after 3 months or so, that'll take 20 hours, maybe 30 hours a month out of my schedule, which will be nice because I can devote that to doing other stuff like daydreaming and reading books.
Commissioning new miniatures from my wish list.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be quite a relief. And then we can, because one of the projects I gave up was a second edition of our first rule set, which was released in 2006. That was Rules of Engagement, and I had to stop doing that because I just got far too much on, and ended up shelving it permanently until we were talking to somebody else, Roger Gerish, who's worked with us before, and he's looking into a Rules of Engagement second edition. That will probably come after, because he's redoing 7 Days to the River Rhine. And he's redoing 7 Days to the River Rhine only because at some point we're going to reach the end of the print run, and you have to make a decision. You have to decide whether you're going to reprint, which we always would do. We always reprint. But it does give you that pause in your planning to consider what else you're doing. So he's done sort of a PDF supplement to 7 Days to the River Rhine, which we've asked, will he develop a bit further? And then when we reprint 7 Days to the River Rhine, we can errata it first of all, and then add in the extra stuff, the extra Middle Eastern wars thing. So that's what he's working on, and then his next project after that is Rules of Engagement. But yeah, I'm going years into the future actually.
Right. Yeah. And 7 Days to the River Rhine is one of the ones I've forgotten. So that's your World War III rule set, which again, I think most of your systems are miniature scale agnostic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. We've never really worried about that.
Yeah.
It's never been particularly relevant. I mean, I think the only thing where we've probably driven that is with Old West, the Old West, because
you got a massive figure range to support it.
yeah, we went in heavy, and and we always wanted to do the complete thing where you could. That's why we hooked up with Foreground in the very start of Dead Man's Hand,
right?
Because we wanted the complete thing. We wanted the rules, miniatures, scenery,
right,
all in one place.
Right. So you would. I thought they were building. You mentioned Foreground, because Foreground have folded, haven't they?
Yeah. But we always had an agreement with Foreground that because Dead Man's Hand was attached to the building range, that we sort of shared copyright of it, if you like, or certainly trademarking of it, and therefore within the agreement, it was said that if either company went, then the other one had the right to retain the name. And in our case, we had a right to retain the right to stock the product to support our own range. So fortunately, it's the parent company of Foreground, the original parent company, that produces those buildings for us right now. And we continue to sell. And we'll continue to, because it's a lovely range of buildings. We love them.
And some people are already heavy committed to those buildings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that they'll mix in our plastic buildings with them, and they'll want some more Foreground Dead Man's Hand buildings as well, and we'll continue to have them.
Great. Is there anything you wanted to say that I have not got round to asking? Is there anything you want to share before we go?
No, I think we've had a lovely chat. I really like what you've said about 1914 and about exploring different theatres, because one thing I always promised I wouldn't do was to expand it into different years.
Yes, I remember speaking to you, and I don't entirely agree, but I do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
is that you did not want to do the huge scale trench warfare of the Western Front.
Yeah,
and
you know what? That's how I felt from when we first developed it, and that's how I feel now. I'm not saying that in 3 years I'll feel like that, but I tend to be consistent in my in that sort of thing. But I love the idea of just at least maybe having a planted seed of alternative theatres.
Yeah,
for the year 1914.
Yeah, and they're there. The not so much Turkey, but it could have been. We just didn't go there until a bit later. But certainly East Africa. Yeah. All right, Stuart, it's been great. I have had a quick look in the chat, and I don't think I've missed anybody. We'll be looking forward to the Kickstarter. Is it up on Kickstarter already, or is it in the next coming week?
No, it's running. It's running now. It's got. I think it ends in about 2 weeks.
I'm thinking now. People have already said they've backed it. I'm just being an idiot, aren't I?
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't there when I looked last week. The page was there, but there was no content yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's out there now. If you want to go and back it, get that starter set. 3 buildings and a wagon plus some gunfighters. If you and if you expand your range with.
And if you're just checking it out, go and check it out. Go and have a look every day, because we're bringing out little snippets and extra videos every day. Extra behind the scenes looks, all of that sort of stuff. There's, we're doing like a Dead Man's Hand daily news on there, and it's just a really interesting, fun campaign, for launching this new box.
And are you going to send us a review copy when one becomes available?
I think we might have to.
I think I would.
I'm still going to sign up. Just
I waited until after you'd committed to back it, Mike. Obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. Oh, do you know what? There was one more thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, because it's personal to me. But we wargamers are an aging demographic. You have really small cards in your games with really small words on them.
Yes.
Could they be bigger in the future?
Full size playing cards.
We do a full size version as well.
Do you? I just got the starter set for Dead Man's Hand. I remembered. I mean, it's good.
I do apologize. I mean, with the new set, we're doing a full size version. I should say. I should clarify.
Right. So you have actually made that change. They're bigger cards now.
No, we are offering an alternative full-size version as well.
Right. And I'm assuming that is because a lot of these cards have to be placed on the table. Your design concept, you didn't want them to be too big.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are alternate ways. So, for example, there's an alternate way which will be heavily advertising, that you can use the initiative cards, but that you can also use little tokens to represent the initiative.
Right.
And we'll be making those available. Yeah. So we do recognize that. Do you know what? Because I'm the same. I have to wear glasses in order to read, and sometimes
I have to wear different glasses to read them.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that as well. So yeah, we had to keep the design concept, but yeah, I always wanted to do full-size cards, and yes, they're coming, definitely coming.
Magic. Stuart, thank you very much for your time. Hobby wise, where did you get to tonight, Mike?
Well, I've put several coats of the yellow on. It's looking quite bright, and I even got olive drab on quite a few Flames of War tanks.
Very nice.
You know, the 155s for our next game against each other.
I got two little gardens, mostly covered in shrubbery, although a bit of clump foliage just fell off when I picked that up. That's live TV for you, huh? Stuart, it's been a real pleasure having you on. So
Thank you.
Go over to the Kickstarter, check them out for the Dead Man's Hand 2-player redo. Great Escape Games, obviously, they have a website, huge range of games. I can personally recommend that World War I miniatures range if you're interested in, 12 mil World War I. They really are beautiful figures, and I've said that a few times because I was really impressed when I opened up the box and had a look at them. Thought these are really nice for the scale. And if you're nervous about scenery, they fit in perfectly fine with 15 mil scenery. You can't notice. There's really no difference. Stuart, thanks for your time.
And don't forget, you can go and see Stuart at the Farnborough War Game Show.
Yes.
11th and 12th. I will be.
Nice.
Wally will be there. I might be there. It is a bit far from here, but it was a good show. They had a lot of games and a lot of competitions in that show as well.
Yeah.
Loads and loads of tables of games. And it's in an aircraft hangar. And they just moved there when I went from a different venue. So I don't know whether they were there before.
Yeah.
But there was loads of extra space and they were planning to grow it massively. So it was a good show. It was a very good show. All right. Good night, folks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.